The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
Hey! A triple feature, 3 films up on the screen. One's a little heavy, one's a little sleek, and one's just caught between. Laugh and cry and overanalyze, dig through fleams with wide, wild eyes. Grab some popcorn, take your seat. 3 times the fun, 3 times the treat. Hey, a triple feature. That's what we're here to do. What we're here to do. Buckle up, the lights go down, and we'll watch them all with you.
Good evening and happy Black History Month as it rolls on here on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network. I am that Radulich. And joining me as he does each and every year, each and every podcast to celebrate the blackness that is history, ladies and gentlemen, the magical Negro himself, Jason Teasley. How do you do, sir?
Hey, what's up, Mark? I'm doing pretty good. Living La Vida Loca and ready to start winding down our Black History Month here on the Radulich Broadcasting Network. And now we're looking at a genre this week, less than stellar Black History movies.
These are modern satirical Afrocentric cinema. That's the thing. Honestly, we're talking the Book of Clarence tonight, the American Society of Magical Negroes, and They Cloned Tyrone. And in all honesty, I wanted to see the Book of Clarence when it came out. There was no time, and there was no spot. There was no room for it on the schedule. And Robert. then the American Society for Magical Negroes came out of Magical Negroes, and I was like, that seems hilarious. That is right up my alley. This seems right at home with American Fiction and Bamboozled, and there was no time for it on the schedule. And Robert, They Cloned Tyrone was one of those like Netflix movies that I might have took a brief look at and went, this isn't for me. This is going to be, before I knew anything about what it was. So before anyone's just like, oh my God, how could you say that? You have to understand, I saw the title. I kind of maybe looked at the thumbnail and went, this looks stupid. I'm not going to watch it. I'm realizing that before I make those decisions, that you can't judge a book by its cover. And that before I make a statement like that, I really should at least research the movie and then make a decision. So when I put this triple feature together last year, it was let me put together the movies that I've been wanting to see that I just haven't had time for. It'll be perfect for Black History Month. And then so that was Clarence and Negroes. And then I was like, okay, what else is out there? And I was like, oh, well, I might as well throw They Cloned Tyrone on here. I know that was big when it came out on Netflix. Boy, am I glad I did, because let me tell you how much I loved. I watched it with Jonas last night, and both of us absolutely loved it. So with all that being said, I just want to know, had you seen any of these before? Did you even know what these were?
Dude, I'm the whitest guy you know doing Black history. So no, I hadn't know. I'd heard of them. I had seen the trailer. The American Society, I've seen the trailer. I've seen the trailer for Tyrone. Book of Clarence, I went in blind, and thank God that I did. And we'll talk about that a little later. But yeah, I mean, I was pleasantly surprised with 2 of these movies. One, I kind of, it was like, well, I'm not going to make that analogy because then that'll upset some people. It was like taking a beating. You're getting mugged. You just sit there and take it. And that's one of these movies. The other 2 movies I actually enjoyed, and their Rotten Tomato scores did not reflect anything. So I'm kind of glad that I went into everything with low expectations, because I wasn't disappointed with the majority of these movies.
Yeah, I haven't checked out the Rotten Tomato scores. I haven't. There's been absolutely no buzz on any of these. Like like to my knowledge, there's no necessarily lasting cultural legacy with this. It was just they actually got compared to I can't remember what the fifth movie was, but the fourth movie it was compared to like there. When I say fourth or fifth, it was because there were five movies that got lumped together. One of them was another one that we did. It was called The Blackening.
Oh, the Blackening was funny. I liked it.
Yeah, we had a good time with The Blackening. That's what we
Yeah.
did that one last year. And what was said about The Blackening and was said about these movies is, especially Negroes and Tyrone, was how much they attempt to satirize Black culture, but seem to flatten it instead.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Was the fifth movie the one we did with the Blackening that had like was making fun of the purge, maybe? Because I would see I feel that movie. I can't think of the name of it, but it would have fit. This is like the black family moved into the all white neighborhood.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
I can't remember the name of it.
Meet the Blacks.
Yeah, and that might have been the other one that it was probably lumped into.
Maybe I'm looking through my notes now to see if it's here. It might have been American Fiction. Now that I think about it, I'm looking.
Yeah, riveting journalism here, folks. A lot of dead air. Mark looking up stuff. Yeah, riveting show.
You feel free to host your own podcast. It's really fine.
I tried that multiple times and they fail. All
yeah,
fail.
Maybe that's a clue that you should just shut the fuck up and let me do my thing. All right.
I make fun of one of the co-hosts.
I had to have read it somewhere else. It's not in my notes. It's that I can tell. It's not in my notes that I did. And I didn't do that many notes on this. Like I barely talked about the Book of Clarence. Like when I was watching these, and I talked like Jesse does to ChatGPT. I did I did not do it at all for Tyrone because I just watched that with Jonas like clean. And then the Book of Clarence, because I was like half asleep during that one. But the American Society of Magical Negroes, I talked a lot into my phone about. And it's not wherever I got the idea that this was compared to The Blackening, it escapes me. But let's get into it. Enough of the jibber jabber. Released between 2023 and 2024, the Book of Clarence, the American Society of Magical Negroes, and They Cloned Tyrone reflect a new wave of Black genre satire aimed squarely at millennial and Gen Z audiences, fluent in trope critique and systemic analysis. Jeymes Samuel's The Book of Clarence, starring LaKeith Stanfield, reimagines biblical epic through a hustler's lens, blending hip-hop aesthetics with religious spectacle, though it struggled at the box office despite its ambition. Kobi Libby's Magical Negroes, led by Justice Smith, emerged from Sundance development in skewered corporate assimilation culture, generating more online debate than ticket sales. Meanwhile, Juel Taylor's They Cloned Tyrone, starring John Boyega, which I didn't even realize that was him until just now. Teyonah Parris and Jamie Foxx found success on Netflix, merging Blaxploitation homage with paranoid sci-fi. Collectively, these films signal a cultural pivot, Black cinema interrogating myth, stereotype, and systemic control from within the genre machine itself. Let's start with the Book of Clarence. Basically, this is kind of the Passion of the Christ, only it's not Jesus, it's Clarence. And Clarence doesn't know he's magic until like a third of the way through the movie. And then we just kind of follow his story. He gets mixed up with, the local crime syndicate. He ends up running afoul of the Roman governor. He gets, he won't turn Jesus in. And Jesus is black in this movie for all intents and purposes. There is a really great bit where there's another character running around that looks like classical Italian Jesus, and it's Benedict Cumberbatch, who was also made to be magical at some point. Either way, the movie ends with him not giving up Jesus, and so he is crucified for it, and then Jesus resurrects him, and that's the end of the movie. I'll go to you first, Jason. What did you think of this?
Uh, it was rough. I wasn't a fan. I mean, I'll be honest. And
Mhm.
I had, and I'm not the most religious person, but
Yeah, I
you
was
know,
wondering about that. If like this bothered you from a religious point of view.
it did. I mean, I'm not a religious person, but I think that I'm all about gray areas. Not there's things that you can't make fun of, but it was really hard for me to get into this movie because of the trying to think of the the correct word. Um, trying because if it was nothing but white people, it would be called we'll call it coal burning instead of whitewashing. I don't know. That's just kind of taking that spin and race swapping everything. It kind of took me completely out of the movie. It was really hard to watch. I really just had it playing on the background while I was doing homework and stuff. And I'd glance up and watch it for a few minutes and then go back to doing homework while I listened to it. So it really wasn't engaging to me. I couldn't. I've watched horrible movies before, and I've been attentive to them because of of the review. I've suffered for the craft mark, but this I could not even. It was like it was really hard for me to connect, even watch, to give it a full, legitimate, honest review because I was just so disconnected.
I think my biggest problem with the Book of Clarence is it doesn't seem to know what it is. Like it's clearly riffing on passion mythology. It's clearly riffing on historical misrepresentations of Jesus and trying to take back that narrative. And like, look, how many more times do we have to hear? And I think this is largely correct. I'm not saying this as a matter of like disagreement that if Jesus of Nazareth came from the Middle East, good chance he's Middle Eastern looking. Like, I think like I've been inside some black homes. You probably have too, with the picture of Black Jesus up, and he's got
Yeah.
Like dreaded hair and stuff like that, and like he's not like very dark black. He probably looks. He
He's an
probably
olive.
looks. I said he probably looks like Egyptian, Kuwaiti, Iraqi, somewhere in that.
Yeah, like an olive skin tone. I
Yeah.
don't believe that. I don't believe that he's.
He's probably like black Egyptian in presentation.
Yeah, I would go along with that. Like I said, do I believe that he was a fair white skinned man? No.
No, it's been
Yeah.
documented over and over again that an Italian man posed for that picture, and that and that when the Catholics institutionalized Christianity, that's the mythology. That was basically them planting a flag.
Do I think that he was black? No. I feel that he was what here in West Virginia you call like a high yellow,
Okay.
high yellow olive
So
skin man.
I only bring that up because I think the movie wants you to think this is a bolder movie than it really is. I would have preferred if you're gonna tell the story of Black Jesus, like just fucking make him black then. Like just tell, or not just make him black, just tell Jesus a story. Why do we need the sidebar campaign with fucking Clarence? Like, I think that's like my biggest problem with this is that like instead of just going at it directly and being direct and challenging notions of white versus black Jesus, just make a Black Jesus movie. And instead, they're like, he's here, but he's not the focus. Clarence is the focus. And, it's about finding your faith, because it's so funny. At the beginning of the movie, they're doing a chariot race and they run afoul of Benedict Cumberbatch, who was a dirty homeless. And his buddy that's with him is like, just run him over. And they do. They just run.
Yeah.
They just run him right over. And over the course of the movie, through miracle and growth, he becomes a better person, not one who runs over hobos in the street. And I think that's a perfectly nice story to tell. But again, I think the movie is tonally confused. Like sometimes it's comedy, sometimes it's a drama. So maybe it's a dramedy, but I don't know if it knows that.
Yeah, I think the direction was lost.
Yeah.
Because some parts were serious, some parts you could see them really trying to dig in, but then you get parts where it was trying to be too lighthearted and it would take you out of scenes and take you
Hmm.
out of the movie completely, and you're like, okay, what's the identity? And I think that might have contributed to it as well. Been a huge factor because there was some good scenes where you dig in and you're like, okay, they're gonna, you can sprinkle some comedy in, to break the tension every now and then. But I think they would go. It was whiplash. You would go from a really intense scene straight into an absurdly comedic scene,
Hmm.
and there was no gray area. It was either one or the other, and you was
Yeah.
constantly being thrown. And when you do a movie,
Almost like the comedy is like a studio note.
right, it's like this movie's too serious. We need to add this in, and it may have
Right.
been, and it was added in post.
Like fucking executive produced by Peter Griffin. Somebody better throw a pie real soon. It
Yeah,
was like
and
that kind of mentality. Um, I wanted to piggyback on something that you said.
well, hop
Oh,
on.
I, I wanted to. I just dropped today. That's what I was thinking of. I just dropped today my TikTok on the show that Shay and I did at the end of January. Jesus Christ Superstar, Tommy, and Rock of Ages, and I remember thinking about this as I watched the movie, how much the Book of Clarence reminded me of Jesus Christ Superstar, because Jesus Christ Superstar keeps like oscillating between 1970s modernity and Jesus in his appropriate time, to where like the costumes don't always match. They think a bunch of people show up in a bus. It's like it's
Yeah,
weird. It's tonally and anachronistically all over the place, and that's kind of how this felt, where like everyone's very like deeply serious, like they were it was kind of like a community theater production of Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ, except when it wasn't, when it wanted to be a black movie.
oh, I can see that.
Which is like, again, like it was like tonal and dialogue driven whiplash, like pick an aesthetic already. And
Yeah,
the last thing I want to say is, and I really have nothing else to say about this movie. I don't
yeah,
know what the author's intent was, because a passion play is a very specific thing, and if you're interrogating the Jesus myth, which I'm all about, like I'm not a religious person, I have faith, and I have deep behavioral and structural convictions about the way people should comport themselves, but I don't belong to a church or any specific religion. Um, So if you want to, if you want to be Gnostic about it and interrogate the Jesus myth, I'm all for it. Like, if you want to deconstruct Catholicism, Christianity as a whole, go for it. And this movie seems to kind of want to do that, but then doesn't really. It's not a particularly brave movie.
yeah. And I'll give you a little bit of insight with me in religion.
Hmm.
Um, I used to be very religious. I used to, I was saved and all that, played in church league basketball and everything until I got to college. My teacher, imagine this, thought that I was an asshole. Uh,
I don't know why he
because,
would think that. That's really weird.
Me neither. But no, he thought me of an asshole is he never, he said he saw a lot of potential in me.
Hmm.
I just never applied myself. So I was taking summer courses, and I had to take an English course, and I had to write a bunch of essays. Well, one of the topics was, we have all these older white women, Bible Belt here in West Virginia, talking about why prayer should be in school. And he just looked at me and said, "You're an asshole. I want you to piss everybody off and write why there shouldn't be prayer in school." And he wanted to
How many
challenge
times
me.
did you use the phrase slippery slope?
No, I never did. Never, never.
Oh, because that's kind of your gimmick from back from the Black Irish days.
Yeah, I know it's a slippery slope. No, but I never. I was very concise. And what really started me down this path is he challenged me, and I started looking into other religions, and I began to see, you know, a lot of Christian beliefs and everything. Why are there so many? And that's basically what I came up with. And why I believe there's a central religion, and I believe I have faith in everything, but I think everything is just a branch off of a central religion, and everybody's interpretations. And that's what I wrote the perspective from. You can't have a prayer club if you don't have, a pagan club or a Satan worshiping club, because you have to be fair to everybody. And this is back. This is way back then. They was talking about taking prayer out of football games, and I'm like, and I've played sports and everything, and I'm like, I'm all for it. If you want to have a moment of silence, pray the way you can, great, but don't get upset and pissed off if somebody on the team is, you know, believes in sacrificing a goat before the game and offers it up as an offering as their religious standpoint. You can't get upset about that. And I pissed a lot of people in that class off. But that kind of shaped me where I am. So I I believe there is a lot of interpretations of things. Just like history is just what people tell you it is. There's and it brought up the whole point of, okay, the Bible's a book. Well, who was the editor? And people get pissed off when I ask that because they can't answer it. I'm like, okay,
That's historically proven who the editors were. There
well, no,
was a big old meeting about it.
well, I'm saying I ask a question, who's the editor, and I'm like, and why is it in chronological order? And everybody gets really upset, and they're like, but, and I'm like, okay, so you see this, it's you have stories contained in a book. With
You want to ask another question that pisses people off? Like, this is the unadulterated word of God, and I'm like, well, which book do you follow? Because they're two different books, and they're contradictory. Like,
and then you get into the whole discussion of Enoch and everything. Why was it suddenly omitted when the King James version came around? So yeah, and it's like, you have the Dead Sea Scrolls. Why are they never? Why can you not do it? And then I say, well, Jesus performed miracles in front of millions of people, right? Yeah. So you're telling me only 12 people could read and write, and they're the only people that witnessed this and documented it.
Yeah. There's a lot. I think I've told you about the Laughing Jesus, right?
No, you haven't.
There's a book called The Laughing Jesus. It's about Gnosticism, and the first half of it talks about how the Jesus story is mythology, and every religion has it. Every religion, pretty much. I'm using loose language here for the purposes of conversation.
Yeah.
So not literally every, but the story of God's child God's child who is birthed, who's a product of a virgin birth, rises to become the Messiah, dies for your sins, and comes back resurrected a few days later, is not exclusive to Christianity. It's a mythology held by several religions on earth over time. And so that's the first half of the book, is that basically saying that, Christianity is a religion. It's not the religion, and Jesus is not wholly owned by Christianity. The second half of the book deals with agnosticism, Gnosticism, what it is, and why it's better for your faith, and yada yada yada.
Check that out.
Yeah, I actually did a TikTok on it like months ago when I was going through my Rattledge University stuff, which I should get back to someday. But I started doing TikToks once a day. It cut back on what I was able to do, especially when TikTok was pissed me off on an ongoing basis. But enough about that. My point is, we should wrap this up and move on. Going to what you're saying is, I think there's a lot to interrogate about Christianity. I think it's healthy to do so. Also, I think it aggravates the living shit out of people, because the minute you start poking holes in people's belief system, they get defensive, and it doesn't hold up under any kind of scrutiny. Like, I think if we had some of our more Christian friends, they would be frustrated with this conversation because they don't like having their belief system undermined with questions. It's, I think Harry once said, your new best friend, and he was talking about wrestling, but it applies here more than anything else. To those that believe, no explanation is necessary. To those that don't, no explanation will do. And so when you start doing what you're doing, what I'm doing, what this movie I think was attempting to do, you just you aggravate the believers, and the non-believers don't care. This is an interesting movie to put out. I think it's a brave movie to put out. The movie in and of itself is not brave, and I'm not entirely sure has a coherent point of view.
And just the last thing on it, the premise of this movie is good.
Mm-hmm.
The execution is poor, and
Yeah.
that's where it falls flat. And that this movie could have been good. Like you said, if you could have really challenged people's belief and everything, and I think that's part of why this movie didn't do as good, is because people were uncomfortable. But,
I wish they hadn't made Clarence magic.
right. I wish
I
they
think
would
this is a
just kind
stronger
of.
movie. I think if you have competing messiahs and one of them is bullshit, but because he has soul power, he people are flocking to him until he is found to be, I think the movie is stronger if he is crucified for being a heretic in the literal sense, like he's doing the Messiah thing for riches, to get out of debt with. I mean, that's kind of what they were going for, but then they undermine it by making him magical. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and speaking of magical, we could talk about our next movie.
Okay. So the next good segue. Jason had run out of things to say. The American Society for Magical Negroes. The plot is basically Justice Smith is the most awkward black kid on the planet, and I think that's what he is in every movie. If you like, I could have just as easily done a Justice Smith is awkward triple feature because he's fucking awkward in everything he's in. Like this, I saw the TV glow, and maybe and the third one just doesn't come to mind. But like Justice Smith, I'm gonna skip ahead here just so I can say this line, and then I'll get back to the plot. David Alan Grier saying, watching you walk across the art exhibit was painful. I was like, God, that is watching a Justice Smith movie. He is he is like Black Michael Cera. Like, what the fuck? How are you this afraid of the world? Anyway, I will get to it. The American Society for Magical Negroes. Justice Smith is an artist. He's a sculptor. He works in yarn. He does not stand up for himself. He is kind of wishy-washy and afraid of confrontation. He is then spotted by David Alan Grier, and David Alan Grier says, have you heard of the Avengers Initiative? He says no. And so he takes him to S.H.I.E.L.D., and it is revealed that there's a league of super magical Negroes whose whole existence is to make whites comfortable. Because when whites are uncomfortable, they get agitated. When whites are agitated, they tend to shoot black people. It's not a hard premise to understand, and I got it immediately. So they were like, so we're given magical powers as long as you act within the confines of the role, you will have magic, and that magic is going to be used to make white people comfortable. You are to accent their life like salt. You are not to overtake it or take any riches for yourself. So he gets assigned a white guy who's working at a social media development company, and he's typical kind of, he's not racist or anything like that or particularly evil. He's just got his head up his ass like many of us do. There's a pretty girl that works there, and thus there is a love triangle that is a thing. And a lot of the tension of the movie is Justice Smith trying to do his job, but not really wanting to because he wants to be with the pretty girl. He almost blows it. He almost loses his powers. Somebody else fucks up more so than he does, and she is excommunicated from the society. At the end, Justice Smith finally loses his fucking patience and says, "I deserve to live." Speaking on behalf of all black people, I deserve to be alive. I should not have to subsume myself to make white people comfortable just to exist. I deserve to exist despite white people, not because they're comfortable. Great. So this is yet another one that ends in a speech, and he storms off. and then he gets with the girl, and he is excommunicated from the society, and then he's together with the girl, and then it's revealed at the very end that the girl is actually a part of her own secret society. Ha ha, hee hee, ho ho. What did you think of this movie, Jason?
I like this a movie a lot more than what I thought it would. I mean, I looked on the meta score and everything.
Mhm.
I got a 3.8, and I was like, oh god, I'm gonna hate.
I don't think people understood this movie.
No, they didn't. And so I was like, it took me back, Mark. It took me back to a summer day where I was forced to watch a movie. But I actually got into this. Because sometimes I'm not as dumb as I look, and I can understand things. I can see things at face value. I did get a couple of this movie did make me chuckle a couple times, especially when it did the riff of Bagger Vance and the Green Mile, when they're talking about their history of magical Negroes. I kind of laughed because it kind of poked fun at Bagger Vance and the Green Mile, which is where this term was coined from. The magical Negro was coined. I think it was around 2001. I want to say maybe even earlier, by Spike Lee, and he references the Green Mile, Bagger Vance, and a few other movies. But yeah, this movie didn't take itself too serious. It tried, but it tiptoed that line. And you kind of can say, oh well, it's all about trying the black man trying to buy. I didn't look at it as seeing color. I looked at it as this kid is completely lost in his own world. He is nothing but a wallflower. He blends into every situation, and he's a super people pleaser.
Can I help you? I'm going to let you continue, but I want to say this before I lose it. This movie does a better job of what they were trying to do with She-Hulk than She-Hulk did, in the sense of when they have the kid playing Jennifer Walters go, I know how to control my anger. Every day is a trial for women. Every day I am harassed. I am mansplained. I am this. I am that. And I have to control my anger, because if I don't, I will be excommunicated from the professional world. I will be seen as a bitch. My entire value as a person will be diminished. So I have to. So I'm a better Hulk than you, because I've had to control my anger infinitely more than you have as a man. It gets kind of lost in the culture war thing, and being a Hulk really mucks that up. And I don't want to get into it. But this movie does a better job of what she was trying to get across, of to be black. I'm gonna explain blacks to black people. Thank you. But to be black is to understand that, and this is kind of the point of the movie, is that if you allow people who are already kind of agitated as a general rule to get out of control, you're putting yourself at risk. So you walk around. It's like black people will talk about navigating the white world. It's doable. You have to soften elements of yourself in order to do so. So there's this tension between the authentic black experience of the world and having to navigate the white world, and wherever the twain shall meet. And that's kind of the whole point of the movie. And I actually think the movie does a decent job of that. His speech at the end of, I shouldn't have to walk around with this fear in the back of my head of, if I can't if I don't navigate this world right, I could end up dead for the sole sin of just being black. And I can see why people don't like this movie, because that is a shitty thing to have to say out loud and reckon with if you are a white person.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't see this. I didn't see it as too much color. I think but I see this as just a awkward kid that was just a people pleaser that blended in, that didn't have his own voice in the world. Finally getting a little bit of quote unquote power and influence, and seeing what he has to offer the world, seeing that he does have a value within himself, and showing that to someone else. Um, and that's where the love interests come in. I think they kind of handled that really well, honestly. And
Mhm.
at the end, I think that was probably one of his best performances. I don't think it was a stellar acting job, but I think the
Well, it's nice
the
to see
whole scene,
it was nice to see some fucking bass in Justice Smith's voice for a change.
yeah. And we won't talk about now you see me, now you don't. But he kind of steps out of the, and I like how they done it because he was kind of backstage, and he kind of steps out of the shadow, literally and figuratively, and he was just like, I want to be heard. And it's not because I'm a black man. It's because I'm finally finding my place in the world. I finally see that I have worth. And I found this hilarious because you got the CEO, president of the company, still trying to shield and say, yeah, this is what meetup or whatever it's called. This is what it's all about.
Yeah.
He's finding your place.
Yeah, he's
Because
being validated as he's like excoriating this company in his experience.
Yeah.
He's fucking being validated the whole time.
Yeah, and it's like, well, I'm not racist. I don't have a racist bone. He's like, I don't care what you're saying. This is what I'm taking this as exactly what you said, and you're trying to divert and get away from what you actually said, and you're twisting it and the manipulation, the wordplay, and everything.
Mhm.
And he's like, shut the fuck up. Hear what I have to say. And the guy's trying, the white guy, Jason, imagine that his name's Jason, is kind of deflecting and trying, is being a complete asshole and not, he's listening to respond rather than listening to answer.
The woman in that scene is also hilariously so desperately
Trying to keep things from going off the rails further.
a quick aside there in Crime 101. Should have seen it. It was good. There's a bit where Halle Berry has been denied a raise. It's a partnership in the firm that she does insurance for, and she leaves. She goes into the office of this young woman who's there. She's the new flavor in town, and the boss is in there, and she fucking goes off, and she gets like a good 5-minute rant in, and then she's proceeded to walk out on her own, on her own strength. And Robert and I were joking about that because in real life they'd have dragged her out and shoved her into the box they cleaned her desk into.
Yeah,
you're not gonna and I thought about that because this movie does a better job of what would actually happen when you have an angry person of any color, but it helps to be black, ranting at somebody with any degree of power. She is so desperately trying to keep a lid on things and calm it down and overtalk him and get him out of there, and it's not working. Justice Smith will not be moved, and it's a brilliant scene.
and David Allen Greer in this movie is great.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's the heart and soul of this movie because you kind of see, and just like you, I grew up on In Living Color, and we got to know David Allen Greer from that in the days, and kind of grew up with him, and see him kind of go from that comedic and the more serious roles.
I'm telling you, man, Don No Soul Simmons is still some of the funniest shit I've ever seen.
Oh yeah,
From Amazon Women on the Moon. Oh, tie a yellow ribbon around the old oak tree. Oh my God, David Allen Greer is a fucking treasure.
Yeah, and he doesn't get the recognition that he absolutely deserves.
Yeah,
he could be a serious actor. He could play that hard role. I don't know why he's not a leading man in some movies, and he gets kind of supporting their actors because he can actually carry a movie, and I fully feel that. But I think he gets pigeonholed a lot into this.
He doesn't carry himself as, he does not carry himself as leading man material, and he also I think a lot of the guys that came out of the Keenan Ivory Wayans fucking Living Color group that are black probably arrived too soon. Give David Allen Greer, Tommy Davidson, Damon Wayans another 10 years, and they'd have had the career of Marlon Wayans.
Oh, no doubt.
If not better.
I think Tommy Davidson is one of the funniest humans ever. Simply because of his physical comedy and just how just his facial expressions are absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And David Allen Greer, some of my favorite things with David Allen Greer on is the at the movies with Damon Wayans, him and Damon Wayans. I think it's two snaps and a twist.
David Allen
Stuff
Greer
like
rode that line between being like a inoffensive black comedian and absolutely being sharp and menacing when he wanted to be.
Yeah, because
Disarming. That's what I was like for. He was a very disarming black guy when he wanted to be. Because how could you not be if your bit in a sketch comedy movie is Don Nolsel Simmons? That doesn't really work if you're fucking DMX.
right. But he tiptoes that line of being that because David Allen Greer is a menacing person. If you look at him, he could be a menacing person, but he could also be this big teddy bear.
Yeah.
That is just like everybody's uncle that you just want to go to the cookout. He's working the grill, yelling at the kids, got the flipping burgers, talking shit about somebody's mom.
In all honesty, David, there's not a huge amount of difference between David Allen Greer and like Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy, could be very soft spoken. Eddie Murphy could be very intimidating. Eddie Murphy had, amazing acting range. It's just like Hollywood's. To quote Busta Rhymes from Finding Forrester, they only let you go so far, and then you're stopped. And it was like Hollywood had a fucking quota on good-looking, talented black guys. It was only going to let so many through at a time.
Now, I'm going to ask this question because what do you think? You talked about coming on about 10 years later. What do you think could have been David Allen Greer's ceiling? In all honesty, in all retrospect,
I don't see any reason why David Allen Greer couldn't have done what Will Smith did. Outside of maybe some of the action roles. I'm talking about like when Will Smith oscillated between three categories: comedies, dramas, and action movies. And later, more just between just dramas and
when I say this, I might catch a lot of flack from you and anybody who listens to this. But I think he would have been he would have had a Samuel L. Jackson career.
If he was, what makes Samuel L. Jackson was Samuel L. Jackson said no to nothing. He fucking took every role that was offered.
I'm saying, like.
No, I get what you're saying, and I agree with you. But Samuel L. Jackson's a very specific thing.
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm saying you could put David Allen Greer, you could switch Samuel L. Jackson out and put him in and playing the role in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah,
and it'd be believable.
It's so funny you said that because that's what I was thinking of. Like I was picturing David Allen Greer as Julius in Pulp Fiction, and I'm like, yeah, it still works.
But also, you could put David Allen Greer on Snakes in a Plane, and it would work.
Yeah.
You could put David Allen Greer
in Soul Man with fucking Bernie Mac.
Yeah, you could put David Allen Greer in The Hateful Eight, and it would work. I see a lot of parallels between him and Samuel L. Jackson, but Samuel L. Jackson had a lot more exposure, therefore he got a lot more roles in bigger
Samuel L. Jackson got more successful faster and earlier than David Allen Greer did. I mean, the thing about Samuel L. Jackson is he was in everything for like 30 years. It might have been a background character, it might have been in one scene, but he was there. Like he's a father in this black movie. He's an old crotchety man in that one. He's Robin of McDonald's or McDowell's in another one. Like Samuel L. Jackson was fucking ever present.
Could you imagine him doing David Allen Greer in Black Snake Moan? Well, I don't
know if he's got that kind of talent.
No, I'm saying because I mean it's just an old crotchety old man that just is trying that has a religious conviction that's trying to save somebody. That I can believe that is.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I would love to. You know me, I don't like to do interviews. I barely like to have a co-host on these things, but I would love to hear if David Allen Greer was here right now and we're sitting here like us two fucking white guys would say to him like, "We think you could have been Samuel L. Jackson. Did you want to be Samuel L. Jackson?" I would almost bet money, and I'd lose because I lose all my bets. That he'd probably say no. Like no, I definitely would I have liked to have had as many opportunities as Samuel L. Jackson. Yeah, sure, who wouldn't? But would I have taken all those roles that he took? Probably not. I would probably be a little bit more choosy, a little bit more discernible. Samuel L. Jackson said no to nothing, as near as I could tell.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure that he's in over
So let's talk a little bit
I
more about
thought
this
that-
movie, then we'll move on to They Cloned Tyrone. Um, I don't have as many complaints about it as I do, most movies. I really and thoroughly enjoyed this. I think if you were like, but if you don't complain about a movie, I can't sleep tonight or have sex with my wife, so please complain about something. I think it loses sight of the racial critique and instead is mostly just doing the same rom-com kind of romantic drama that every movie is doing of this ilk. And
Right.
that's not why I wanted to watch this. Because I'll tell you, for a large chunk of this movie, where he's just trying to figure out, like, where he's doing the thing of, I'm in love with this woman, but if I follow my heart, I lose my magic. So I'm gonna struggle with that for a third of this movie. I was fucking bored. That's what kind of stops it from being perfect for me. Because when it's interrogating what it's like to be a black person in a society that only tolerates you, and if you act out of line, will fucking kill you, I think it's doing great work. When it's just like, what happens when a nerdy black guy likes a pretty girl and he's not allowed to? Like, I've seen this movie before. I don't want to watch that movie. I wouldn't have watched this movie if that's what I knew this was. I'll give you the last word, and then we can move on to They Cloned Tyrone.
Well, I mean, Samuel L. Jackson had 281 movies, so I mean that tells you the one there. But this goes into the reason why I wanted to watch this movie, and I'm not going to lie. I mean, I'll be 100% transparent. Is the name. I want to see magical Negroes. I had a preconception thought that it was going to be one thing, and it was going to be kind of like a grown-up Harry Potter type secret society of like upper level black people influence. Like I was so waiting for a Jesse Jackson or a Colin Powell reference that like that they're magical Negroes and that's why they got success in life and everything. But
so you really wanted a
like,
Black Avengers, is what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I thought this was going to be is the Black Avengers.
Okay.
But I like the fact that it was very low key, very a groundswell, and everything, and very grassroots. But I think they handled everything properly. And the funniest thing is excuse me, when they first go out with the cop and they go to the club, and the cop shows up and he's fucking losing his shit. He dressed like most guys that went to the clubs in the 90s, and early 2000s. But when he gets to the door and the facade is up, he looks like Vanilla Ice. He looks like he came from a Vanilla Ice video, and he gets in, and it's just so funny that this movie kind of took the perception of the world, turned it on its ear, and shown it back and force fed it to us from a black person's point of view, and how people can be go unseen, and sometimes that black counterparts are just there to support the white people that the main
under pain of death. It's important to remember that's the point the movie is making.
Yeah.
Is that black people will allow themselves to be somewhat second-class citizens out of out of a sense of safety.
Yeah.
Like I want to be able to navigate mainstream white society, so I'm willing to be a supporting character in this narrative. Which is it's a sad state of affairs.
Yeah, and
like if you ask like an average black person, like, do you feel that way? And their answer is yes. Like, how do you not feel guilty about it? And some like, I'm not doing it, but I'm white and I live here.
I don't feel guilty about anything, Mark.
I know you don't. You're a sociopath. But for those of us with a conscience, it can be affecting because again, it's one of the you don't want to say something as asinine as I'm not a racist. I have black friends, but it is kind of it's one of those conversations that you would have with a liberal about privilege. This is what they're talking about. You don't have to walk around society fearing that if you aren't a certain way, you're going to die.
And I want to say this, and And this is something that I've been exposed to because, and I'm going to be very open and honest. My daughter has a boyfriend now.
Mm-hmm.
He's mixed, and me and him joke a lot. He is my black sounding board, and he tells me some of the most racist jokes, and I find them funny.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I want to share one with you that he recently told me, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "What do you call 10 black guys standing in a field?
I don't know. What do you call 10 black guys standing in a field?
Farm equipment."
Dick.
And he tells me that, and me and him, and he's just like, and when we was watching this, me and him had a discussion about it because he's in the Marine Corps,
Mm-hmm.
and everything, and me and him's got a good relationship. We're bonding, building a relationship, and and we have that. He has that respect for me, but we also have kind of a friendship. And I just said, man, I was like, I'm going to ask you a question. I said, I want you to be my sounding board. And he was like, and I asked him, I was like, excuse me. And I was like, how do you navigate? How do you feel? I was like, is it different when like you and Kinsey go out versus when you're in, uniform and stuff? He said, I will tell you this. He said, in America, not so much. He said, but when I was overseas, he said, people like to talk about America the way it is. He said it is way worse overseas. He's like, he said, I've been called stuff, I've been treated poorly and everything. He's like, just because of the color of my skin, way worse than I was ever treated stateside. And I was like, really? He was like, yeah.
Yeah, people seem to think that America is exclusive in hating black people. It's not.
No, and me and him had like I said, me and him had a heartfelt conversation, and
Mm-hmm.
I expressed me and him have a very raw, open conversations. I told him there's no things that we can't talk about. I told him if he's able to have conversations, we'll have difficult conversations, we'll have lighthearted conversations. But only thing I ask is to be 100% honest, be very upfront, very frank, and we've talked about some heavy shit. We've talked about some funny shit. We make jokes to each other. Everything. He recently got pulled over, and I asked him if he had to get out of the car and you know prove that he owned the car because whether they think it was stolen and stuff. I mean, I joke with him about that, and he's like, yeah. He said, yeah. He said I had to take my Afro pick out and all this. He said I had to. He said I had to use my. He said I had to use my white guy voice because he's light skinned.
Yeah.
He's very light skinned.
I want to really quick, and then we'll move on to They Cloned Tyrone.
Yeah.
So I can't talk too much about it because this is a client, and my profession. I have to protect anonymity and HIPAA and all that. But I will talk about this because this has less to do with the work we're doing. I happen to have said to him in our last session, I was just like, you intrinsically think the worst of me, and it's only because I'm white. And it's not just because I'm white, but because you have had such shit experiences with white people in your life, as a professional, and you are older than Methuselah at the moment. So you have a lot of traumatic experiences, a lot of, I hate these words, but in this case, it's usable, like microaggressions with white people, that it is hard for you to not assume I'm the worst thing you could think of in any given time. And he was like, and it's funny because like I feel comfortable enough with this guy to be direct and honest with him. That's part of the work that we're doing. And he was like, and at first he was like, because there's a lot about him that are good attributes. I don't want to get specific.
Yeah.
But he was very much like, at first taken aback that I would say that, and I was like, he was like, you know what? You're probably right. It's probably hard to separate you from the trauma I've experienced by people who look like you.
Yeah,
and the thing was, I'm not young. It's not like he can look at me. He was like, "Well, you're some white kid." It's not like I had problems. Like I'm a middle-aged white man, and for the best parts of his life, like the middle part of his adult life, he probably had to deal with a lot of people who look like me, who did not make him feel great about himself, or gave him a harder time than was necessary, or was not professional. Never mind, not racist, just not professional.
I think that's what this movie really addresses
Mm-hmm.
is the fact that sometimes being a person of color, you got to find your voice and not just always take a back
Right,
seat
and
like
not
you're
assume that the world is going to come apart if you do.
right. You don't have to always be Rosa Parks and take a back seat,
Mm-hmm.
and you can actually have your voice heard and have an opinion. And a thing nowadays, I see it on TikTok, I see it on Instagram a lot of times. Is you see the absolute worst of the black community. You see these people um, creating violence, going in, robbing stores and stuff. But that's
There was a girl. After I say this, we're just gonna move on. There was a girl who dropped a TikTok about, I guess, like a takeover of a mall in the Bronx, and like the black kids that did this takeover were destructive. And she was like, "This is why no one wants to come to the Bronx. This is why no one wants to put businesses in the Bronx. Anytime black people are given anything, you act like this is coming from a young black girl. Anytime black people get
yeah,
anything, you people act like animals. This is why no one likes us." I was like, yeah, wow. And
yeah,
there's a lot of content on there of black people looking at other black people going, "Will you please ascend? This is getting ridiculous."
yeah, and I see a lot of those TikToks. I see a lot
Hmm.
of, like I said, a lot on Instagram. But this movie takes that and kind of, like I said, kind of turns everything, and you see the softer side. You see
Yeah.
the everybody's not. I really want to say what I want to, but I'm not. There's difference. You
Hmm.
have in every race you have the extreme to each end.
Sure.
This shows you
The
the
the Chris Rock thing about like there's black people and then there's niggers is like, yeah, every fucking
yeah,
race has that. As if like there
right.
as if there aren't trash white people that are just animals.
Yeah, I mean, I could, back where I grew up. I mean, we had
Hmm.
a town that up till 2002,
Hmm.
they never had a black student in their school.
Hmm.
I there's a community that's not far from there that still believed in and had members of the KKK in
Hmm.
the 2000s, and it's like, how do you comprehend that?
Right.
But also, I've got I grew up with some phenomenal black friends. Some of them, like I said, I tell this story all the time. They called my mom. I called, their family was my family. My family was their family.
Hmm.
I was, as a kid, I was at the cookout a lot, especially in the summer. But it was just a melting pot. I
Hmm.
think, and you can attest to this because we're the same age. We went away from that to where we quit being humans and judging people on what kind of character they are, and went to the extremes of I hate you because you're a different color than me.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to, speaking of which, speaking of black paranoia, let's move on to They
Yeah,
Cloned Tyrone. So They Cloned Tyrone is very different than what I thought it was. This is, I thought it was going to be more of a wacky comedy. It's not. There's some funny elements to it, but this is definitely a inner city movie that deals with black paranoia. It's funny, like it very much reminds me of like I'm gonna get you, sucker. In that, we're fighting the man, and the man is an actual guy.
yeah.
But that kind
He
of a
is
thing.
actually a man.
Yeah. So they clone Tyrone. So we have John Boyega. He's a drug dealer and a ne'er do well. And he is collecting money from Jamie Foxx, who is a pimp, and his one of his girls is Teyonah Parris. And in the course of trying to collect said money from said pimp, he is shot dead. Except that he wakes up the next day with no holes in him. And everyone's like, what the fuck? So he starts trying to figure out, like, I'm pretty sure I died. Like, what the hell
Yeah,
happened here? And he finds out that, through some minor investigating, that he was cloned and that his cloning was part of a bigger conspiracy of a large institution conducting experiments on the greater population of this one um, this one part of a city that's densely populated with poor black people. This is invoking the Tuskegee experiments. This is invoking crack in Los Angeles and the CIA. This is every like true and mythologized black story of how the government has gone out of their way to get them through experimentation, through conspiracy, through drugs, etc. So and the way that they find this out is like they go to eat chicken. It turns out the chicken is drugged and it's doing something to people. They go to a hairstylist and there's something in the gel and they realize, oh my God, it's not just that they cloned. The guy's name is Fontaine. It's not just that they cloned Fontaine. They're doing all kinds of shit and it's everywhere. So at that point, it's a lot of following them on their adventure to figure out how far does the conspiracy go. They end up running afoul of one of the goons. The goon almost kills him, and basically was like, every question you have, we have an answer to. There's nothing you can do. You are powerless. This is important because the feeling of powerlessness when, as an impoverished person, as an impoverished population, is pervasive and permeates this movie in a way that it very much editorializes the black experience. So, for many. That said, at first, our hero recoils and says, "It is all hopeless. There's nothing I can do to defeat the man. I will sit here and die." And then the girl ends up getting kidnapped, and they've got to save the day. And he teams up with the bad guy who had shot him in the beginning of the movie. And then they get down into into this large institution, and they take it over, and they destroy the experiments, and they set the clones free. And all is well, as all the rights are wronged, or all the wrongs are righted. So I love this movie. This is, they threw the word Blaxploitation out there, in that sense of like, it's poor black folks against the rich man sense, sure. But I did not feel like this was exploitive in any way. The only thing that separates this from other movies that take place in a black ghetto with people who populate black ghettos is the like science fiction elements to it, which aren't really that science fictional, as we've actually done experiments on black people in their own neighborhoods. There's a great TikTok I saw about about how like a lot of the projects were painted with lead paint, and then we wonder why we have behavior problems now after generations of kids being exposed to fucking lead.
Yeah, I mean, this movie by far was my favorite out of the three.
Yeah.
Simply because, I mean, it's relatable to me, I guess.
Because you hate lead paint?
Well, no, I mean, I'm just saying it's relatable in it questions everything, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I question everything. I mean, if you tell me to do something, I want to ask you why 15 times until you tell me exactly why I'm doing it.
Yeah, you're not exhausting at all.
Yeah, I mean, whatever, calling me on the fly and trying to fucking get movies, and I'm just like, okay, Mark, just pick something so we can watch it.
My girlfriend had to walk out of the room because of you. It was really funny. She's like, "Why is he so wishy-washy?" And I'm like, "It's fine. It's fine."
No, I mean, I'm just like, Mark, it's fine. Just tell me what I need to watch.
Right, and then I'll pick the wrong one, and I'll hear about it for the next 5 years.
No, because you can't. No, we're over that.
Oh, good.
There's a movie that's went worse that I gotta, if I can remember what it was, I'll give you hell about. But no, I mean, I think that there's always I'm a very big conspiracy theorist. Imagine that. Who would have guessed, right?
Yeah.
But I think that I always think that there's more to every story. I don't think that. I always think that there's a secret narrative to everything.
Mm-hmm.
And with this, it kind of rings true. And it's like, well, you've got all this going on. You've got this, you start uncovering. It's like, this shit could really, I mean, really, this isn't far-fetched. You could actually imagine this movie legitimately happen.
Yeah.
I mean, and you're like,
like I said, I call it like science fiction, but like really, it's not. You know,
It's
it's
like
fiction, kind
plausible.
of. Yeah,
It's
it is
plausible.
absolutely. This is one of the more plausible, like
Yeah,
fictional tales I've seen in quite some time.
and it doesn't take itself too serious. I mean,
Hmm.
it has its moments, but going back to the book, Clarence, this has a direction. It knows it's to not take itself too seriously, but to hammer aspects home and just sprinkle in the comedy when needed.
Right.
The Jamie Foxx is great in this,
Hmm.
uh, and he is that comedic relief, but then he's believable when shit kind of goes sideways and you have some tense moments. It's believable, and you're like, okay. And the best part of this movie is when they're all rolling up. You see everybody rolling out, and you just got these two lowriders, and they high five each other before they split off like the end of Fast and Furious 8. Um, and but yeah, I mean, this is very plausible. It's very relatable to anybody that questions things. And I think you should question everything. You shouldn't just be a sponge for whatever's told you. You should be a free thinker, and that's what I think this movie addresses. Is this shit could really happen, and
Hmm.
you need to see what's going on. You need to see the science. And I like how they used the chicken and
Hmm.
the great his great drink and the stereotypical black things, the perm stuff, and
I like the fact that it doesn't let black people off the hook for destroying their own neighborhoods and destroying, and
yeah,
not be getting out of their own way. It's like two things can be true at the same time, and the movie does a good job of acknowledging that.
yes, and that's something else I was going to say. I'm glad that you were more eloquent saying, yeah, two things can be. You could be questioning everything, but then you could take accountability for your action.
Hmm.
And I think this is a movie that balances out perfectly and addresses everything.
Yeah. There were some craft things I didn't love about it. It's very dimly lit, so like I it might have just been how far away I was sitting from the TV, but it took me a while to realize that was fucking Jamie Foxx. Because the scenes that he's in the beginning are so poorly lit.
Well, I mean, it's probably on a budget of like $3 million. I mean, it's
Probably.
a very big budgeted film, so
But
it probably
outside,
was on a
it's also
shoestring
too
budget.
long. Like this is a 90-minute movie. They
Yeah,
could have gotten away with this in 90 minutes, and this thing was over 2 hours long. Like it's just over 2 hours, but I feel like if we got the kids to the mall a little bit faster, and this is a tighter movie, everything that happened in this movie could have happened a lot faster. Like you could have shot John Boyega in the first 10 minutes of the movie. You could have had them discover the underground bunker 30 minutes into the movie and spend another 30 minutes going through running afoul of the villain, being discouraged, yada, yada, yada. And then the last 30 minutes is the plan to bot the man. You're done in 90 minutes. This got excessive at times. The only thing I really didn't like about it, all of a sudden it was dimly lit, is I feel like it was going out of its way. The Black Klansman, that was the other one. Sorry.
Epiphany moment.
Yeah. It went out because it occurred to me just now because the Black Klansman like gets to the fucking point and is a pretty tight movie. Like it's a Spike Lee movie, so it's probably 12 hours long. But it doesn't feel its length. I remember seeing that in the movies. Like, oh, this doesn't really bother me how long this is. This one, I was getting a bit restless.
Yeah, I think it's going to be at tops hour 45.
Yeah, no more.
But yeah,
definitely no more than 2 hours.
well, I mean, even you didn't even have to go into. You could have just showed him getting killed in a cold open,
Mm-hmm.
and then just go from there and have him, and then do the cold open of him getting shot, and then after your title card, have him waking up the next morning like nothing happened, and just go and launch from there. I mean, that would have took a good 15 minutes out of the movie.
Like it really wants you to like him searching the room, for example. It was interminable. Like, it's gonna sound like I don't like this movie. I do, but I like.
Or-
Sorry, I did a whole bunch of essays today with ChatGPT out of all my podcasts, and it was like, boy, do you like themes? Which I'm sure Robert's going to hear this and like kill himself. But I am. You're right. I'm much more attuned to like a movie because of its theme and less because of its actual like specific craft element. So here I am criticizing like length of time, pacing, lighting. But it's like, but why do you like this movie then if you hate it so much? Because I like what it talks about. I think it's accurate.
Yeah, I like the core of the subject. The subject
Yeah.
at the core of it, I can like a movie but not like the execution of it. And I think that's where we both fall on this is I feel we both like the movie. We just didn't like certain aspects of the movie that
it's a very Netflix movie. It's a very Netflix movie as this did not get the second pass through editing that it would have gotten it into movies, but because the algorithm wants you to the streamer and the algorithm wants longer features, there's no motivation to cut anything and make this tighter. And this is a problem I'm seeing with every Netflix movie that we review is, oh my God, in your quest to keep people fucking Clockwork Orange to your streamer, you are not making well-paced movies.
Yeah, it's Netflix paid for this, so they're going to get their money's worth. So we're going to make it 2 hours.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the 7-hour movie at this point. Everything is a 7-hour movie, which is basically all of their television shows.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, have you watched some of their series? Their Stranger Things was. I don't know who had a more disappointing ending from people that I've talked to. Stranger Things or Game of Thrones.
Right. Like Orange is the New Black. Erica tends to watch a lot of stuff in repeat. Like a typical girl riddled with anxiety, she watches the same three shows.
Yeah.
And like Orange is the New Black was structured as a classic television show. Some of these fucking other Netflix shows or Hulu or whatever, it's like Alien Earth. Alien Earth was a 7-hour movie.
Yeah, it's we gotta drag everything up. It's like one of the greatest television series of all time, Breaking Bad. Each season felt like its own movie, but the pacing was there. You didn't feel like you was dragging out.
Mm-hmm.
And I could say this with full confidence, and I catch hate. I could not get into Stranger Things. It just wasn't my cup of tea. And I catch a lot of hell about that. They're like, well, why can't you do that? I'm like, it just didn't appeal to me. You have to have that hook to get. They're like, oh, you get past season 1. Okay, I watched season 1. It didn't get no better. How long do I got to give? Oh, you just get halfway through season 2. And it's like, and you have this cult following to something. That's like another show, The Office. I can never get into that. My daughter loves The Office. She watches it all the time. I can't get into it. I don't. I love like Community.
Mm-hmm.
I love like Parks and Rec. Love both of those.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of something where I was thinking about. I had it when you were talking and I lost it, but there's definitely shows that I was okay with. I just finished watching Sports Night season 2. I can talk about that, where I was, it was episodic television. There were some season-long arcs, but for the most part, I was able to stay with it and stay invested from episode 1 to episode 22. Same thing with The West Wing. Like, were some episodes kind of boring? Yeah, a little bit. But for the most part, like, I was able to stay with it the entire time. Anyway, we're getting away from the whole thing here. So overall, I'm glad we did this. When we do the Black history and stuff, we tend to do 80s and 90s stuff. We tend to not do anything modern. I think this might be the first time.
No, I mean the blackening and everything was pretty modern when we done it.
That one movie in particular, but like Meet the Blacks, I think it was. You may be right, and I may be misremembering, but I feel like
we usually do an older, then a newer.
Yeah.
Well, no. How long?
You realize that triple feature was just so I could use the word black 3 times? It was The Blackening, Meet the Blacks, and Black Christmas.
Yeah, we talked about that on that show. Well, Meet the Blacks was 2016, so
There you go.
it was kind of modern. I
So
think
I'm glad we did this. This was a fun show to talk about these three movies. It was definitely a lesson for me, especially with They Cloned Tyrone, about look at what the movie is before you just write it off entirely. Because here I am, I would have watched this. I tend to sometimes look at what Neil and Chris are doing and go, okay, well they've already tackled that streaming movie, so I won't be bothered with it. As if there can be only one review in the world. So I'm kind of, that's why like next year when we're doing the football movies, I insisted we do Underdogs because it's another movie I wrote off.
Yeah,
with Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, but we're tackling some good movies on that one. But I'm glad that we did this because just in that same vein, the American Society of Magical Negroes.
Mm-hmm.
If I would have went into it believing what I've seen online, I would have been like, man, this movie is absolute horseshit.
Why does Mark do this to me?
Yeah.
Did you watch any of these with Amber?
No. She works as I watch these and do homework. I watch these while I do homework, and she works in the office. So
you used to watch stuff like this with her. What happened?
Well, if she has interest in it, like she's going to watch John Q with me, because she's in the healthcare professional and the billing side of it. So we're going to kind of talk about that. And it's Denzel, so Denzel movies are kind of cool. And I think she's going to go see Psycho Hunter with me. Psycho Killer with me this weekend.
Yeah, I will not be bringing my children. That's been established. All right. So that's the end of our show. That's our reviews of the Book of Clarence, the American Society of Magical Negroes, and They Cloned Tyrone. Next week is Jason's last Black History Month show. He goes back into the basement, so I don't have to talk to him again until next year. We'll be looking at Denzel Washington. We'll be looking at Glory, which I'll probably watch with my kids. Mo Better Blues, and the aforementioned John Q. But the real star of this show gets to close out Black History Month is Evan Bevins. Yes. We're going to be doing a Robert Townsend focus. It'll be the Hollywood Shuffle, the Meteor Man, and the 5 Heartbeats. And this is a lesson to everybody. Don't ask me to do things, because if you ask me to review one movie, I will make you review 3. He literally just wanted to talk about Meteor Man. And I was like, that's not going to take up an entire show. My God. So we're doing a Robert Townsend focus.
Oh, I might have a problem with Monday, but we'll figure it out. I'll look at it offline.
Oh, yes. Jason's supposed to be on the Psycho Killer show. Apparently, he just may not make the Psycho Killer show.
Well, I got to fight. Hear me, because I figure it would be nearby, and it is not.
Well, we'll figure it out.
Okay, it's played in. Worst case scenario, it's playing in Charleston. I'll have time to run over to Charleston to watch it. So
it's nothing finer than hearing us hash out a schedule that no one cares about.
Yeah.
Last Sunday, speaking of nobody caring, I spent 2 hours trying to explain my love of AI music and Fra Diavolo, Recipe for the Damned, only to have Mick and Cooper hurt my feelings. So we had a great debate over the legitimacy of AI art and AI music. So that was a lot of fun. Robert and I, after our most contentious podcast in quite a while, Send Help, had a very lovely discussion on Crime 101. Yesterday, as I said, myself, Gavin, and Jesse reviewed Sports Night Season 2. No show this Sunday. As I promised my mother, I would stop booking shows when we have dinner plans. However, we are reviewing Psycho Killer on Monday, whether or not Jason's there. Sessions is back. We are compressing BoJack Horseman into a nice Johnny Cash song about depression, that was what the show was about. So tune in for that on Wednesday. And then, like I said, a week from tonight, we've got Glory, Mo Better Blues, and John Q. So for Jason, I am now going to post The Audacity of the Mundane by the great new band that everyone's, the flavor that's taken over the nation, Stiznarchy. So with that, be well, be safe, and behave.